Hey everybody, we are doing another topic video today, and the topic this week was underrated directors. Who is your favorite underrated director and why? This is one I'm very excited about and was excited to see what you guys would say. Before we get into that, I'm going to go ahead and plug my website. It is deepfocuslens.com. I am an artist and I do commission portraits and prints of my work, and if that is something that you're interested in, you can go to deepfocuslens.com/shop. If you have a question about an art print or about a commission, you can always email me. My email is in the description box below. Okay, first answer. Charles Laughton. Although The Night of the Hunter is recognized as brilliant today, it wasn't received well in its time. I think we lost a potentially great director because of that. That is a very interesting choice and one that I didn't see coming, but yeah. Excellent. Yeah, when people think of Charles Laughton, that is very interesting. That when people think of Charles Laughton, I don't think a lot of people consider him, oh, that's the guy who directed Night of the Hunter. I think most people think of him as, you know, a great character actor, a great European character actor who worked in the golden age of Hollywood, made a lot of legendary films and played a lot of legendary characters. He truly was a great actor. I've loved him in so many different films. And yeah, knowing that he directed Night of the Hunter to this day just seems so out of left field, yet he was very passionate about the project. And yes, The Night of the Hunter is, you know, for my money, one of the great American films ever made. And I think it's certainly one of the best films of the 1950s. And, you know, it's just, of all the films he could have done, it just surprised me. A lot of actors, especially like critically acclaimed Academy Award actors and such, they tend to, you know, they'll go ahead and make a movie eventually sometimes, but it's usually something that's more like a character drama or something that they know is going to gain them, you know, critical accolades. But no, like here he's going for this film that's real dark and real childlike, like a storybook, but it's kind of haunted and mystical and surreal, and it's using all kinds of, you know, interesting horror elements and noir elements. I think it is just a stunning film and in a very unique experience. Very, very unique. And what I love about it is that it's not afraid to show like these beautiful moments of growth, of nature, of, as I said, mysticism. Mysticism is just a good word to use for the film. And it captures the essence of childhood in a way where it feels like the loss of innocence is dying in a way that is just so inherent. It is deeply, deeply sad that the film was not received well at the time. I've actually read a lot of reviews at the time the film came out because I do find all of that very fascinating. But it clearly got to Laughton and it really upset him. And unfortunately, because of that, I think his confidence was depleted and he never made anything beyond that. And that, yeah, I mean, it's a tragedy. Who knows what kind of films he could have made after that. I know he didn't live very long beyond this point, but still, the idea is really interesting. So yeah, even though he only made one movie, perhaps, yes, an underrated director because we don't know what else he could have done. I had honestly never heard of Bertrand Bonillo until I saw your Nocturama review back in 2017, I think. I watched that film and was amazed at how no one else was talking about him. He's gained a bit more popularity on platforms like Letterboxd, but he deserves way more than that. Thank you so much for mentioning Bertrand Bonillo. I knew one of you was bound to mention that. Yeah, I think Bertrand Bonillo, for me, for my money, is maybe one of the best directors working today. He's probably my favorite or one of them. He is a pure technician, pure craftsman, and he understands the language of film in a way where he can make something beyond it, where he's, you know, not so much a victim to the conceits like a lot of directors are. I always, when I think of him and when I talk about him, I've said this in pretty much any review I've done for Bonillo, but his movies all just remind me of a bunch of mirrors that are kind of like intersecting and kind of running into each other. So like when you walk past it, you see a lot of different versions of you from all kinds of different angles. It's like, so this perception of reality is very distorted, and he's showing you all these different things from different angles, different points of view. And he's often, you know, jumbling the timeline as well, but in a way that is technically so meticulous. It's so brilliant that to this day, I struggle to understand the structure of his films and how he builds them. And it's done in a way where he's using a lot of kind of like postmodern elements, you know, that are quite famous, and a lot of elements of genre that we know, and, you know, infusing it with something very fresh and very experimental. Very rarely are there characters in his films that are real meaty in a traditional sense. This is more kind of just capturing feelings and abstractions in a way that, I don't know, feels like Tarkovsky, maybe. In a way that reminds me of Robert Altman. It reminds me of Gaspar Noé, the immersive quality. I don't know, there's just so much. He reminds me of a lot of different people, and yet totally his own person. He makes movies even though they're not necessarily about people and the characters aren't necessarily memorable all the time. He's making movies about people who are very trapped by their social expectation, trapped by feelings of loss. And I feel like he's the kind of person who could make a movie in the prehistoric era or today or the future, and it would all feel very timeless. Yes, Nocturama and House of Tolerance, both of those films made it onto my top list of the decade for the 2010s. So yes, I highly recommend both of those films. M. Night Shyamalan, his mid-career dry spell made him a meme, but his recent output has re-established just how great he is at blocking, shot composition, and tension building. Plus, he strikes a total balancing act of horror and comedy that always feels emotionally sincere. Okay, so I'm not like a big M. Night Shyamalan aficionado, but I do find the progression of his career very interesting because he was very much a zeitgeisty kind of director, the kind of person who had a lot of success and then he sort of disappeared, kind of like a Gore Verbinski type, and yet he's had this resurgence, which is very rare in this industry, particularly after you embarrass yourself the way that he did. But yeah, the progression is just really unique. I remember back when like the Sixth Sense came out and films like Signs and the headlines and like Newsweek and stuff were like, he's the next Alfred Hitchcock, which is very laughable. But I think at the time, for whatever reason, people really took him seriously at the time. And he's not a serious director. He's very campy. And I think he uses way more comedy in his films than a lot of people maybe recognized at the time, or at least mainstream audiences recognized at the time. So therefore, when movies like The Village came out and even Signs, the suspension of disbelief started to wear really thin, I think, with people. And then he went on and he made other movies after that, and like Avatar, The Last Airbender, which bombed. And I really thought that he was done. I really did. But, I think that a lot of those movies, like Signs as an example, if you watch it now, it comes on, like syndicated TV and whatnot. It's fun to watch. Like I've watched it probably within the last couple years on TV or something, and I really enjoyed it, as silly as it is. I think he does have a specific essence about him that is very silly, but also very entertaining. And so, yeah, I think it's really cool to see him have this sort of redemptive arc, this resurgence in his career. I just naturally really love it when horror directors infuse a lot of camp and humor, because I think, humor and terror aren't that different in a lot of ways. They both have a lot of manic energy to them, and there is a sense of edge. And he may not be my favorite, but, I'm glad for him. James Gray, yes, made The Immigrant, The Lost City of Z, Ad Astra in a single decade. In a fair world, he would be as big as Paul Thomas Anderson. Yeah, and, James Gray is also one of those people, I don't know why he hasn't caught on yet. I'm surprised he hasn't caught on with the Academy, because the Academy loves, people who honor the classicists, who honor kind of more the great filmmakers. And I feel like James Gray does that better than pretty much anybody in Hollywood. I can't think of one person who rivals him. He understands subtlety, the sophistication of building a story and building all of the elements of a world in a way that is really fresh and special, yet it harkens back to all of the things that I love. I'm always complaining about how in mainstream movies nowadays, we just don't have those great, meaty stories that were so mainstream back in the day. We don't have movies like, Billy Wilder movies. We don't have All About Eves. We don't have a lot of that sophistication in our storytelling anymore. And I feel like James Gray is kind of a callback to that. He reminds me of people like that, even like Lost City of Z, which I actually didn't see Ad Astra. I want to. But Lost City of Z, it reminded me of like David Lean epics. And The Immigrant, I think, is, at least for me, I think it's one of his best films. So yes, James Gray, give him a chance. Really, really. I'm very sad that he's not more well-known. Okay. Lynn Ramsey always knows to push the envelope when it comes to her craft. You were never really here, confronting the audience with harsh realities that other storytellers are scared to tackle. We need to talk about Kevin. While never completely going down the rabbit hole of depression porn, she so easily could. Ratcatcher. So Lynn Ramsey is somebody that I'm very intrigued by. I actually don't care for We Need to Talk About Kevin. I didn't care for it at the time I saw it, but it still had something about it. You know, obviously had a very distinct personality and style that was intriguing, though maybe a little bit immature, maybe a little art student-y. Using all kinds of pulpy techniques in this particular story. You know, like there are elements of it I think that were effective, especially shots, but I think it just didn't work. It didn't come together, and it felt more exploitive than anything. I just tonally, it never sat well with me, that film. Though You Were Never Really Here, I felt really struck that balance, found, you know, elements of very dark humor, brutality, kind of the pulp aspect, and infused this like strange, you know, it is like a self-discovery story that's kind of a la Taxi Driver, yet also it's like this very interesting like action thriller sort of thing, and done in a way that I hadn't seen before. It really felt fresh. It really had an adrenaline about it and a texture. I loved that film. So that just goes to show you, you know, like We Need to Talk About Kevin, didn't care for it, but was intrigued. And then, you know, everything that I kind of wished for from that film happened, and You Were Never Really Here. And I would love to see what she does after that. It is surprising that after that film, more people don't talk about her. That is a film that does get tossed around, I think, in like cult film circles, and certainly cinephiles like it. But Lynn Ramsey, I think, needs to become a lot bigger. So I'll just hope that she has another film like that, or many, many more, because she has a ferocity about her and a boldness that I find to be really, really exciting. And she chooses Johnny Greenwood to do her scores. And the score for You Were Never Really Here is brilliant. Oh my God, it is so brilliant. I almost think it's better than the film. So she has very good taste. And yeah, so that is the video. Thank you guys so much for answering in. You always have such great explanations and a lot of great answers, and I love to read them. But we'll do another one pretty soon. Thank you guys so much for watching. All of my Patreon supporters are here. Thank you guys so much for your support. If you are interested in becoming a patron, the link for that is below, as well as my social media information. You can watch more videos here, and you can subscribe if you'd like. Catch you next time.